Hello, my JTAL friends, and welcome to another episode of Authentic Living. I'm Coach Sandra, and the topic for today is dating and healthy relationships in the second half of life. And I'm so delighted to bring you to this forum, Olga Bochareva. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
That was great.
Great. So a little bit about Olga. She is a relationship coach and is an advanced FasterEFT practitioner. Her specialty is helping brilliant women, and as she says, a few courageous men, find the type of love where the belief that real intimate love exists. Olga teaches individuals how to effect paradigm shifts that allow them to establish more supportive, connected, and deeper intimate relationships. All right, welcome, Olga.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Such a pleasure to be here with you.
This is great. So what got you passionate about, helping people find, the right partner?
Oh my God, this is such a good question. The statement when you're in the middle of what you don't want, this is the best place to understand what you really do want.
Yes.
So I was there for like 10 years. So I came out of a really long and rather toxic marriage to someone who was a good person on many levels, but we didn't resonate, we didn't connect, we struggled a lot. He reminded me of my father on many levels subconsciously. So I think that was my healing journey more than anything else. And so when I was going through this experience, I read Mars and Venus. I did marriage fitness course. I've gone to 4 different counselors. What else? There was just so many different books and courses and things that I've tried to figure out how can I improve this relationship. I journal about it. And it's not until I found tapping, EFT and FasterEFT, and started changing how I feel, I found clarity and peace. And now a partner who is aligned with my values. So I just got married actually last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. To a wonderful man who's, my husband now, and we've been dating for over a year. And it's been a very interesting journey. And a lot of people, started asking me, what happened? How have I gone from, being in a bad marriage, getting divorced, started dating within a few months and getting remarried in a year. And so naturally, I started coaching people, and I've been doing this work for many years before, but this is, I think, what helped me understand that this is how I want to serve, and this is how I want to help people in this particular capacity to really help them connect with themselves and find the kind of relationships that align with themselves.
Yeah. That's fantastic. That's really great. And it's really interesting. Did you find that there was some judgment? I kind of heard you say that some people were, when you found your current husband and so forth, did you find that transition? Because a lot of people say you should have, what do they call it? The
grieving period.
There we go. And a rebound.
Rebound, absolutely. And you know what? For months, me and Ernie, we thought we were each other rebound. So we were very cautious about it. We wouldn't make plans more than a couple of weeks in advance in case we break up. But at some point, we just realized that work that is done during rebound, we actually have done it on some level, because I've started tapping and I started working in my relationships actively when things weren't going well. I wasn't sitting and waiting for things to change. I wasn't, putting things under the carpet, or I wasn't pretending that there's no problem. I started actively doing something to change it. And so I tell people, I started dating within, 3 months after divorce, and I found, a great boyfriend within 6 months after divorce. But the truth is, I worked on it for like 4 years, before I divorced. And so, I think what I'm passionate the most is talking to people and letting them know that as you change within, your relationship transform. And there's so many women who feel stuck and who feel a bit of a victims, whether they're single or whether they're dating or whether they're married. There's just so much finger pointing, and I get really ranty when I see that. And I see a lot of, women saying, well, there's no good man left out there, or like all men want the same thing, or all men are liars. And I was like, Okay. As you change within, your relationships transform. There's just as many great men out there as a great woman, right? But our limiting beliefs, our ways of seeing things, really do allow us to see what we believe in.
Exactly, exactly. That's fantastic. That's a really great explanation, because I think sometimes people do, and I've heard myself, and especially the second half of life, right? And so a lot of the clients that do come to me, you know, are definitely over 40 years old. And usually the people in their 30s are still married, or they're raising children. And so a lot of my clients as well have asked me, you know, hey, I want to enter a new relationship, I don't feel quite ready, and so forth. And there's a little bit of bitterness, but like we both believe that that is a belief. And there are good people out there, you know, definitely. So how would you define, you know, what's a healthy relationship to you? What's your definition?
This is such a good question. And I think it's a brilliant question, and it's a good conversation to even talk about this, because even, gosh, just a few years ago, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I realized that I genuinely do not even know what does healthy, connected, loving relationships look like. Not only that I didn't know, I never witnessed it. I never actually saw it. You know, my parents were good people. They did a good job raising us, but they stayed together just for the kids, and there was no connection. There was no healthy communication, no modeling what is love or intimacy looks like between men and women. And so at that time, when I was going through, you know, this journey of discovering myself and, you know, going through all this pain, essentially, I said, you know, I need to start looking for the models for somebody who have done it and who have what I have. The other thing that I've noticed is that subconsciously I didn't want to see them, because I felt so jealous and I felt so hurt. It's like, they have it, how come I don't? I'll never have that, right? And so that's where, you know, I started, you know, changing this jealousy to more of a feeling like, okay, right, if they can do it, maybe they're my next step. And so, you know, I have this video, and I'll make sure I'll send you the link, you know, to this interview for your listeners. And I call it 3 things you can do right now to start attracting the right for you partner. And one of them is this specific exercise that I discovered. And I always tell my clients, go and find 3 people who have what you have, or who have what you want to have, right? And not from the perspective, oh, like, you know, when you're single, you just kind of want to don't hang around with too many married couples, because then they make you feel bad, right? So many, you know, couples tell me this. But the truth is, if you can transform the feeling of jealousy, and that's where EFT comes on. I know exactly that's what you help people with, the tapping EFT, changing how you feel. So if you can change the feeling of jealousy to feeling of curiosity, or better, of appreciation, right? Saying, thank you, universe, for, you know, bringing these people into my life. So that's exactly what I did. I was that person who, I was in my late 30s, and I had 2 kids, and, you know, I was, you know, ending one relationships, and I really wanted to, you know, I wanted to have a family. You know, I didn't see myself being a single mom. I actually said, you know, I want to find someone, I want to get remarried within a few years, you know, of this. So I never actually saw myself as being single long term. And sure enough, I started seeing those people, the one who've been together for a long time, and the one who are genuine, and I started getting close to them. And that's how I started discovering what does healthy relationships look like, right? And of course, for all of us, you know, it's different. We define it, right? We decide what it is right and what is healthy. But certain things I think are important, certain things are across the board for couples. And those are things like being able to speak up, being able to share things that are beyond the surface, right? So if you're only talking to your spouse about what's for dinner, who picking up the kids, or, you know, just this kind of things, it's a sign actually of not very healthy relationships, because you want to learn how to talk about difficult things like sex or money or emotions, right? Those are the top 3 things I think I help people to talk about, and how to communicate it healthy. And I'm still learning how to do this. It's a process of mastery. So that's one thing, one clear thing, right? The second sign, or the second key in a healthy relationship, I personally believe, is something that is, I call them co-creative relationships. So co-creative relationships, just to kind of help you understand, guys, it's the opposite of codependent, right? So if you enter in relationships, or if you are in relationships to where you constantly feel like the other person make you happy or make you fulfilled or make you sad for that matter, right? Or make you miserable, it is a codependent relationship. They
Definitely.
do deliver, absolutely, they do deliver something that you already want. And of course, we are not, mindful when we're in it. I remember when I started working with my practitioner, she only talked to me for like less than an hour. She said, Olga, your favorite feeling is guilty. You love feeling guilty. Like, if they can feel you guilty, they are yours. You'll go and find people who'll help you feel the same. And so she said, don't go get the divorce. Don't start dating. Go change that feeling because you'll attract more of that.
That's right.
And so start noticing your personal patterns. And if you don't feel like relationship functioning on a level that you'd like to, notice how does it reflect what you hold within or what you practice, and subconsciously, of course, right? None of the things we would do to ourselves consciously. And so there's things that are more conventional, like date nights and like business meetings and some certain, healthy things that you can do. But on a bigger scale is this feeling of victim, right? So if you have this feeling of victim, and if it's something that is predominant in your relationships, you really want to, if you feel like a victim, or if you feel like the other person feel this way, it's very unhealthy and it's very unbalanced.
Yeah, I totally agree. No, I totally agree. I totally agree because I've been, this is my second marriage as well with Stan, and we had a tumultuous relationship. Sort of in the beginning, I've been with him for, 15 years or more. And you think I would know that, right?
That's great.
But the thing about it is that I didn't speak up. You mentioned a couple things about that, and I didn't really quite know because I too didn't have the role model. My parents are good people and so forth, but I didn't know that. We normally don't go into relationships always knowing unless you come from that education or someone teaches you or you go to therapy. So I like that you brought that, and I too find it interesting. I have really great enriching conversations with my husband about many different things, and sometimes we kind of, what I say, even butt heads a little bit, but I like that because I'm a kind of woman that I need a strong man too. I'm somebody who doesn't want a yes ma'am man. I want someone who's going to make me accountable. I want to grow. I want to change. I want to evolve. I don't want somebody to just agree with me because they're afraid, or I don't want to agree with them because or him because I'm afraid, of whatever. So I think that would be my definition, part of my definition of a healthy relationship as well. And you're absolutely right. We do have to have those difficult conversations about sex and about finances and about what's working and what's not working. And the FasterEFT to me is really a brilliant technique, modality, skill to learn and to enable. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. And then we've got another tip.
Yeah, well, then just to to piggyback on what you mentioned, you talked about the kind of man who has capacity to, speak up and to talk to you and to challenge your points of view. And this is something that I've been searching, consciously or subconsciously. I think when you get more secure in who you are and you get more confident and you understand yourself, you are more comfortable with a person like that. You actually want the person like that.
Exactly.
Because they will be a great partner. They'll be somebody who challenges you, but from a very loving perspective. I call these people a superior man, right? Somebody who has a mission in life, somebody who has a higher calling and who's not afraid to help you grow through some of those experiences. And a lot of women will come to you like, those men don't exist. I'm like, they really, really do. They really do exist. There's a lot of great emotionally available men out there. And the key to, and I might be going a little bit off the tangent here, but the key there, but I think it kind of has to do with the dynamic within family, right? It's very simple. To attract emotionally available men, you just have to become more emotionally available, right? Which means work on your fears. Have you healed your limiting beliefs? How much of the luggage are you bringing into relationships, right? Because you will attract that naturally.
Well, and let's go off a little bit on a tangent and talk a little bit about sex. within the marriage. And, you know, there's a lot of different philosophies, and this is not about, you know, making something wrong or right. You know, every couple knows what that is for them in within the intimate sexual relationship. And I just kind of want to get your take on this. I have encountered, I don't know about you, but in our profession, and definitely even outside, so personal and professionally, when you are talking to men and women and there's a trust within friendships, I'm talking about, the sex is going to change. I mean, I used to hear even elderly people, you know, I lived in Italy for a long time, and they would say, I love my wife, or I love my husband. As you get older, you know, it's not like, you know, in the beginning where there's, and I think a lot of times, especially, I can only really make the point of view here in the United States, but it's almost like the culture and the television and the media in general makes it as though as soon as the sexual life changes a little bit after a few years of marriage, that all of a sudden you have to be looking for something else to get that stimulus, if you will. Any thoughts on that, or any observations?
I think it's a great question, and it's a great topic. And to be completely honest with you, this is what me and Ernie are exploring right now. So one of the biggest questions we are asking is, how can we preserve what we have? How we can keep it going? Because we know of couples who are very sexually fulfilled in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. And, you know, and especially in our day and age, you know, they say 40s are new 30s. So you really don't age so much in this technology and all the ways to really be more healthy. You have a capacity to extend this part of your life. And so we are asking this question, what can we do? And so we're very early in this stage, but we really like our sex life. It's a great sex life. There's things that we do and we've never done before. There are things that we experienced. They are not even close to what we had in our, you know, 20s or even early 30s. And for me, it was a huge revelation, because I'm like almost 40. And at that time, you know, in my 20s, I thought, well, I'm old. Like, I probably will not have sex when I'm almost 40. But this is like the best experience of my life ever. And so your ability to open up and your ability to experience connection with another man, it's get enhanced through the sexual experiences. And it's really incredible. And I think there is a way to get it going or to keep it going. But it's also a very personal experience.
That's right.
Because I know of couples who are not necessarily very, you know, sexually active, or sex is not something that of the priority, but they are very connected. And I think this is something that, you know, you just have to sit down and have a very honest conversation with your partner. And obviously, if you're not on the same page here, you don't have the same, you know, sexual drive level, whatever those things are, then you want to work through this, right? Because I don't believe in settling. I believe that you deserve to be with the person who wants what you want. And so, on one end, I believe that the sexuality is a beautiful thing and it should be explored and, you know, developed in all kind of ages. But on the other age, I don't think there's one right answer, right? And I think every time you talk about sex and sexuality and intimacy, the only rule is that there are no rules, right? It's like,
right.
Whatever you feel more comfortable with, whatever you're aligned with, whatever your soul is closer to, that's, you know, the right answer. And I think it goes very closely to the work that you do, because your business is happened to be authentic, right? It's happened to find your definition of happiness. And so I think it kind of goes back to that a little bit, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. And I really like the fact that we're aligned together as far as the, you know, sex it's very personal. It's something that the couple needs to, you know, somebody might have sexual relations every day, I don't know, and other people might have it twice a week, or it doesn't really, and I think that there's a lot of people that don't understand that it's just like you said, the connection and intimacy. Even that word intimacy, I've noticed that sometimes when I'm writing a blog or I want to talk about intimacy, I talk about intimacy not in the sexual connotation, because like I speak Spanish and Italian, and I guess if you looked at it in English too, and I don't know how it is in Russian, but intimacy is not equal to sex. right? And people, I think, mix that up. So I have to always distinguish, and it's like, what I notice a lot of people are looking for is that intimacy as well, like you were talking about.
Absolutely. Even the word itself, intimacy, right, means essentially being able to allow somebody in you physically or emotionally.
That's beautiful.
That beautiful connection of imagine and seeing and connecting with someone. One of the most intimate things that I've ever done is sharing my biggest fears. Sitting down and talking to my husband or my partner and telling him those are the things I'm scared shitless of. That was a very intimate experience. And having somebody who has, capacity essentially to have the space, to provide the space for you to share this, create an incredible connection. So if you're listening to this interview and you want more intimacy, go talk to your partner about things that you're scared most and see what it does to you, and inspire him or her to do the same thing, because it does create a deeper connection. And we all as human beings crave connection more than anything else sometimes.
We do. That's beautiful. I love that you said that. And I love the way you sort of interpreted intimacy. I love that. That's brilliant.
Right.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's really good. We could always just talk a little bit about sex, because I think people within the relationship and what that means. And again, it means different things as long as both people are aligned with that same goal, like you said. But I definitely totally agree with you on that. And so, yeah, it will be interesting to get some questions from people when they start listening to this interview.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for bringing it up. That's one of the topics I wanted to have more conversations about. And actually, I'm going to share a quick story because I got so ranty and so almost angry about that yesterday. So I am part of, different Facebook groups. You and I are sharing a few in common.
Exactly.
There's another Facebook group I'm part of, and it has to do with dating and relationships. And so there are women there who come and share things, and then they, talk about some things. And the interesting thing about that particular group, and I imagine there's a lot of them, is that it doesn't have like a leader or a coach or somebody who could kind of help them sort things out. So some of this conversation turns into a bit of a man bashing, and it's just like very ranty. And it's good to express the feeling, but sometimes it feels like a blind leading blind. And so, of course, I'm part of this. And the reason why I was part of this group, because I was dating a year ago, right? I was where they are. It's just now I'm married, but I still am in this group, and they know me. And then sometime, I'll tune in. And so there's a lady who came in, and she was like, yeah, I was talking to this guy who we were texting and talking for a few weeks. I was like, well, that's mistake number one. Don't text for a few weeks because you're going to, build something that's not there. And then, he invited me, and I decided to, jump the line and meet in his house. I was like, that's mistake number two. Don't do your first date in his house. He was cooking dinner for me. And then, of course, we slept together. I'm like, hello. And then she, keeps on going. I was like, and then he didn't call me, or he, we talked about that we wanted to have relationships, but after we had one night stand, he disappeared. And I'm sitting there and I go like, okay, well, if you want to have a relationship, don't do one night stand, because they're kind of opposite. One night stand is just what it is. Stand. Absolutely. And it's fascinating how other ladies, they kind of shimmy and say, oh, all men are liars, or I can't believe he did it, oh, poor you. And it was me and another lady who just said, well, maybe you shouldn't rush into things. And so, sex, this gorgeous thing it is, and this wonderful expression it is, I think it's important to understand that it's a sacred act. And there is a reason why for centuries it's been reserved for husband and wife, right? And I don't believe that this is the only way to experience sex, not at all. But there is a reason why it's being set up like this. It really is not meant to experience with thousands of people. And if you do experience with this, then take the consequences. It's probably going to be one night stand. And so I think there's a big misunderstanding in our society about this. And one of the biggest things that I think I get really frustrated about is women saying, men just want that one thing. And I told it to Ernie, and Ernie was like, no, they don't. They really, really don't. They really want relationships, But if you're going to have sex with them on the first night, they're probably not going to have that relationship with you, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm getting a little too ranty and a little bit
No, I actually like it because I think these are things that are important for our listeners. And I think we don't probably have enough of this kind of conversation. And because we are at Journey to Authentic Living, we want to be able to be very transparent and express and share these wonderful stories that you have, which is going to be an interesting segue though to what you're talking about with this, because I like it. It's interesting about I'll just share one thing as before we move on to this next question that links to your story about the one night stand. Is, do you remember, I don't know if you've seen a television program. I don't really watch a lot of television, so I don't know if this lady, she was called like the $1 million, she was like a millionaire club thing, I forgot. And so she would set people up, matchmaking or $1 million matchmaking or something. Anyway, not important. But one of her rules is that if she matches you up, if you pay her and she finds you a few people or whatever, and you start dating them, you cannot actually have sex with them. You have to like wait so many weeks.
right. So
trying to help them.
3 months is what I teach my clients, and
So
then they
actually
laugh.
tell them.
Like me and Ernie, it was like 2.5, kind of like it was close there.
You cheated.
You don't. I cheated. Well, actually, like my practitioner taught me 3 months, but I think what it essentially means is don't sleep with them on the first night or the first week, right? Give time to develop relationships. It's not really about the number. It's like you would put yourself through the heartbreak. You would not create the connection, right? And don't even get me going into the hormones, because naturally when you have sex with a man, when you are a woman, you have sex with a man, biology kicks in. It doesn't matter if you like him or not. You're going to be attached to him. You're going to feel needy. You're going to have this very unhealthy connection to that person just because hormones are playing now, not you. And here's the truth. When I started dating, Ernie actually wasn't the first guy that I dated. There was another guy that I spent, some time with, and we were dating for a few weeks. And I just got out of, the marriage, and I was, kind of like looking around, and I had sex written on my forehead, So things happened very fast then. But I also have accepted consequences of what it is. We dated maybe for 2-3 weeks, and it just like it happened. And so, of course, it's not going to last. You never build up a strong foundation to understand if this is the person you wanted to explore things with. And so, absolutely, I think it's, there's nothing wrong with one night stand, essentially. And I'm not judgmental of women who do it or men who do it. It's totally fine if you understand what it really means. Now, if you do it and then you complain about it, then there's some work to do.
No, I agree with you. And I like that. And for the listeners, we're not making any judgments on it, but we do have to critique, the good and the bad and the pros and the cons to things. And you can't have your cake and eat it too sometimes. And like you said, it just, when it comes to relationships, sometimes it's, we have to kind of understand better if we are looking for intimacy outside, I'm speaking outside of sex, then we want to build that, like you said, that foundation. And I think it's important. And it is good that I too have fell into relationships like that, where it was just, oh, now I know why he did, if we want something, a more connection, it sounds like, it's about building that foundation. So, which is interesting about the one night stands, because one of my questions, and I have it's been brought to my attention by various different people that I know, different age groups, about this app called Tinder. And it's a lot of people call it the hookup, the hookup app, because I guess it's supposed to, I was under the impression that it was, a friend of mine told me it was just to connect with people and start dating. And then, but through the years, I have found out from others that it's really just these one night stands. It's like, I want to get laid and I'm going to have sex. So any comments about that?
Absolutely. I think it's a great question. I think it kind of brings us into the, vicinity of online dating and does it really, create connection, and what kind of apps are good, what kind of apps are bad. And here's the truth. Great men are everywhere. They are online, they are offline, they're in a grocery store, they're in a dinner where you happen to be at your friend's house. They are your next door neighbors. You just have to open your eyes and see. Like I met my husband at this tiny bitty, it's called Zusk. Nobody even knows Zusk. People know the match and then they know the eHarmony, but like what's Zusk? And so it was like on the side of my computer, one of those ads that you see on Facebook, and I was like, I think I'm ready to start dating. I'm clicking on that, and I actually met like I went hardcore. I met 10 guys in 10 days, something like this. Maybe it was not that frequent, but only few of them got a second date. I think one or two. And Ernie was, one of this man. And, I was dating kind of like a couple of people at the same time because, before you commit, you have to figure out what it is. But at some point, there was a very high mark that he established and all the competition kind of fell off. But what people are most surprised about this story is that how can you find somebody so fast, right? And how can you find a good quality match on some such like a small website? It really is not about website. It's really not about the app. And another complaint that I hear, and I've talked about, is like all men want the same thing. And I was like, I talked to a lot of guys, and maybe one or two only asked for sex, but I said, no, that's not what I'm looking for. And it didn't even bother me. I was like, okay, that's what they want. That's not what I want. I didn't get offended, but women would get genuinely offended. And a lot of it has to do with your profile and how you introduce yourself and the kind of things you talk about in your profile, right? So if it's more genuine, and if you do say, I'm not here to have, one night stand, you actually will get more inquiries about that. It's kind of fascinating how, your subconscious does not know no. It's like, don't think about pink elephant. Don't think about pink elephant. What are you thinking about? Yeah. Right. And so it's the same thing when you write things like that in a profile, a dating profile. You attract just the opposite naturally. And so I didn't get a lot of men who were interested in that. Most of them were interested in, at least they appeared to be, And so there are a lot of women will say, well, I'm giving up on online dating. And then it's okay too. It's good to take a break. But honestly, there are good men everywhere. And it's not about app, and it's not about, where you meet them. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the concept of 80-20, but 80-20 or Pareto rule has to do with the fundamental principle that 80% of our results come from 20% of our effort. It works for everything. It works for business, for relationships, it's a fundamental law. For example, if you are a business owner, 80% of your income will come from 20% of your clients. 80% of your revenue will come from 20% of the marketing that you're doing. So your key is to focus on that 20%. That's how you grow really fast, right? Because you're doing more of what works, right? And you're dropping things that doesn't, or bring very little result. So the same thing true for dating and relationships. So that 80-20 rules work on the apps and what you say and what you wear. So 80% of finding your soulmate, of finding your partner, is the inner work. It's healing your system. It's going back and releasing limiting beliefs, starting to see different perspectives, starting to change how you feel about yourself, starting to learn how to be happy. And only 20% of that work is dating and the apps and things that you text and things that you say, right? So it's a very small percentage. So if you do the real work, the other thing almost happens automatically. And so I don't know if I answered your question or not, but that's kind of like my take on that.
No, you did. I think you did. And you expanded on that, because I'm certainly not on that app because I'm married, but I just find it interesting watching the trends that are occurring. And I've actually had clients, male clients, good looking, successful men actually, that were single, that came to me for something different, but it would come up where there are actually there are aggressive women out there too, where they're saying like, I don't want to just sleep with them, I want to have fun and I want to date. And so you're absolutely right. And I concur that there are men out there that are not just, the stereotypical things that they say about men, and especially with everything that's going on in the climate today with stuff. And that would be, yeah, I don't even want to go down that road, because I would, I have a different take on some of that stuff myself. And, but yeah, I love what you said. Who knows? I'd love to maybe invite you back and we can maybe explore that a little bit, because I do believe, that, you know, it's really important to be transparent. It's important to, I like the fact that you brought up the no victim mentality, you know, how to move beyond that in relationships. And, you know, we all fall sometimes in that a little bit, but that's why we have partners where they can kind of keep us accountable or something, or we're able to really talk it out. You know, I think that, and I'm also one of those people, I hear couples say, oh, well, we never fight, you know, or, oh, we never. And, you know, it's like, I look at them and I think, well, I argue, you know, I argue and I don't know. I don't think that that's bad, because for a long time now, I'm 50, so I'm a little bit older than you, but when I was growing up, and especially here in the States, there was this, how should I say, kind of a trend, or, you know, where couples didn't, you know, it was, let me try to think of articulate what I want to say. It was just known that couples, you know, a good relationship, you know, you don't argue, you just
No
talk.
conflict.
And you're going like, I don't think so. I mean, that's not always it. Of course, we want it to be healthy argument. You know, we don't want to be calling people names and all that stuff. But I think sometimes we have this, you know, this image or this preconceived notion that we go into a relationship. And I think Robert Smith, doesn't he say in one of his videos that, for all of you who do not know Robert Smith, he is the creator of FasterEFT. But there was this one video where he said something like to the effect that you know, you'll be dating people, and then all of a sudden they reveal their true selves like five months later. You're like, what did I get myself into? Because people then start to relax and they're opening up. But it's like everything's even keel, and it's not quite that way. So I believe that a healthy relationship is being able to discuss things. And I think you froze up, Olga.
No.
There you go. Do you see me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I paused it for a little bit, so I'm hoping that this is, but oh my gosh, this is so interesting. Olga, I didn't think I could just talk to you forever, but I want to get to some other questions, and I'm going to also invite my viewers as well to definitely ask more questions. If this piques an interest, we'll have Olga on again, and we can discuss more things. But I also wanted, because this is also about dating in the second half of life, what are some of the common, apart from the fact that there are women that are saying there's no good men out there, but what are some other common misconceptions about dating with children? For example, sometimes people say that, you know, they're not sure how to date again with having smaller children.
That's a great question. And it's something that I personally struggled with, you know, because when I started dating, and well, actually even before that, I think one of the reasons I was afraid to get a divorce, because I was afraid to hurt my kids. And I was reading this wonderful book by Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. There's a quote in there, and it says something along the lines that the worst way you can hurt your child is for him to experience a parent life unlived. A parent life unlived. So what that meant for me is the fact that, you know, if I settle, if I do it for them, nobody benefits, right? Because they will observe mediocrity, and they will see, you know, somebody settling for God knows even what. Like, why are you settling? And so that's what kind of started me on a journey that the best thing I can do for my kids at that time, if I know that the relationship has run its course, is to get a divorce and to find somebody who is a good fit for me. And I think I really, you know, it became a mission for me on much more deeper level than just finding a husband. I've observed then generation of my family, from generation to generation, we would pass this belief that, you know, you can't really be happy in a marriage, right? Or you have to do some things that your husband, you know, tell you to do, even if it's not pleasurable, especially around sex. My grandma had that. or things with the money, like you cannot trust men with the money, you know, things like that. It was just some really interesting belief that this, or the biggest one, of course, is the guilt. You always feel guilty, even if you're not guilty, you feel guilty, and if you're not feeling guilty, you'll find somebody else who. It's just, you know,
The list goes on.
it's out of control, right? And I said, Don, it stops here. I'm the last one who keep on just passing it down. And I said, I want to create the type of relationship that my kids can observe, and they can live in this environment, and they can, you know, experience and witness something beautiful. It's like my best gift to them. So not only that I felt bad about, you know, dating with kids, I knew I'm doing that for them. Now, of course, you have to be mindful about how many men you introduce to your kids and how you talk about this. So, you know, when me and Ernie realized that things, you know, are getting serious, we introduced, you know, kids to, and it was a very slow process. I mentioned him a couple of times, and then we talked on Skype or something. We just did some couple of silly things. I think he sent them flowers. And so naturally, we kind of got into this place. But if you're a single mom, and if you're listening to this, and if you're thinking that, you know, this is something that you should do things for the kids, you should sacrifice, I just don't believe in it. I just don't buy it anymore. It's this either or mentality, either happy life or kids, money or health, business or, you know, happy career.
Yeah.
I just don't buy into this, right? It's this old mentality. It's a poverty mentality of either or. You can have both, you know, it's up to you, so just decide. So I want to inspire you, and I want to encourage you to start looking into some things that may be holding you behind. If you feel like you're too busy, right? How can you declutter your life a little bit? What kind of things you can just do for yourself that are loving and kind? Go date yourself and take yourself out on a date. You know, this is a great thing to do.
I really love that, because I think that that's really, there was a time in my life where I was living, it was really difficult for me to socialize, and I'm just talking about with other women and try to connect in the community. I lived in a smaller place in Colorado, and it was difficult sort of to connect and with other women and so forth. But the interesting thing is I did that. I decided to become, you know, I started to think, okay, through my meditations, it was like, no, I want to be my own best friend. I want to know what that's like. I want to instill a deeper relationship. So I like that you converted that into dating as well. You know, you want to be, so that's really beautiful. And I think a lot of women might struggle with that. I don't know. What do you think?
Totally. I started dating myself. You know, I've learned this tradition from the same book that I shared with you already, guys. It's the Julia Cameron, The Artist Way, and she called it the.
I like The Artist Way. I have that too.
It's a gorgeous, gorgeous book. If you guys haven't read, I highly recommend it. It's a creativity journey, but it's really self-exploration and so beautiful on many levels. And so she talks there about taking yourself out on an artist date, just going somewhere you haven't been before. You know, something as simple as take a book, go to Starbucks, Barnes and Nobles, you do some coloring, do something that is just for you. Non-logistical, does not include other people or kids. You don't have to do it, you just do it because it's fun, it's different, it's creative. And so this is how I started. I started to dating myself, and then it became natural to have somebody else there. You know, so this process is really beautiful, but it's hard to give to yourself. You know, as women, we always put yourself on the back burner. We always put our needs on the back burner. It's a new concept. We're stretching into this. We're learning this. And so I think it's a good conversation to have. I think it's good for people to hear that those things are normal and natural. More than that, I think they're necessary. They're necessary to be sane. You need to have some of your me time to refuel and recharge, and so you can show up as a better wife and a better mama, you know.
I totally believe that. And I need my time alone for sure. And so for me, that's just not just for my family, but for myself and for my clients, right? I need to replenish and be able to contemplate and be able to exercise some alone time. I actually really need it. So that's fantastic. I'm so glad that you've brought that up. And I know our time is closing, but what are some tips that you could share that are non-gender specific? You know, that's not just for the woman. I know that you really help women, so that's great. But is there something for just in case somebody else? Because I have friends, male friends that are single, that are struggling as well with trying to find that soulmate, as they would call it, or that person that they could Any suggestions, tips on how they could move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of things that I want to talk about, and it does work both for men and women. And one of them we already kind of mentioned. We talked about finding role models, right? So go out there and start looking for people who have created, and get very specific. So in my case, I started looking for somebody who was going to have a second marriage, who already have kids, who are 35 and above, right? So it's not just somebody who has, but it was very, very specific kind of scenario. And it took me, a few days and weeks to find those people. But once I saw they do exist, I said, great, I'm next, right? So that's the first. You're looking for this proof. The second thing I highly recommend you guys do is, and Ernie, my husband, he'd done that work. He shared with me that he have done that with his counselor or therapist, and I do it with my clients too, is to decide what you want, right? It's like, I like this saying that most people don't get what they want because they don't know what they want. So decide what you want. And it's a very emotional experience to actually deciding, and especially writing about what you really, really want. A lot of feeling coming up. So that's where Sandra comes in, where it's right. That's where tapping comes in, right? So if you tap through the fears and all of this, oh, I can never have that. Oh, I'm not good enough for that. Or, right? So if you can tap this out, these feelings, you can actually sit down and create a really beautiful vision of the kind of person, the kind of relationship, the kind of connection you want to experience. And I always ask my clients to be very, very specific there in terms of, don't talk about the kind of house you want to live in and how tall he is, what color of hair he does. Talk about how you want to feel. That's the driving force. That's the law of attraction, right? So feelings are so much more powerful than I thought. So, and I said, use 20 adjectives, at least 20 different adjectives to describe how you want to feel. Is it connected? Is it luxurious? Is it sensual? Is it adventurous? Is it joyful? Is it grounded? Is it what those things are? And they're different for different people, right?
Oh yeah.
So write this down and just, and I wrote this down in January 2017. And I met Ernie in May of the same year. So it didn't
my goodness,
that long. It's just a few months. And it was so ridiculous to read it to him, because I was reading this description to him and it was like a 90% match. It was that accurate. So I wrote him into existence.
That's incredible.
That is pretty incredible. And the last thing that I want to leave you with, guys, in this particular journey is start healing your past. I know it sounds very cliche. I know it sounds very kind of like generic. But EFT is a great tool to go back and release some of the stories, because you will want to heal them. You will want to repeat them if you didn't heal them, right? It's like you'll start dating your mom over and over, or that same type of woman. And it's not until you truly forgive them on the deeper level, on the emotional level, not just in the words, oh, I'm not upset with them, I've forgiven them. No. Go inside.
I agree.
Imagine if they're like right here sitting with you in a room. Can you give them a hug and say, I'm okay and I forgive you and it's totally fine. And if you haven't done that, then go tap on it until you do, because it's totally possible. Lots of people done that. So Sandra has, lots of stories that her clients have done that. It's just this beautiful work of this, deeper emotional healing. And, me and her, we practice EFT and FasterEFT. And then there are other, modalities that help you achieve the same. But what you want to do is you want to go to the subconscious level and start making those changes now.
And that's excellent. I love that you ended with that, because that really is the beginning. I mean, I practice, I'm a shamanic practitioner, I'm a certified coach, ICF, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what, and it all works. We all believe that the power of belief is so important, but definitely I think that what's really great about what's happening now with neuroscience and neuroplasticity is exactly what you're touching on, which definitely it would be great to have you on if you agreed to come back on to be able to talk about that. I think it would be fantastic. So the subconscious, you guys, is really what we're after, because I think a lot of times too is that, especially my journey, I've been doing this work for over 17 years. And I will tell you, I've gone from one, you know, we always have to do training as coaches and this, or at least that was the belief, and to keep up with certain credentials. And, you know, but it's just, it's amazing work what's happening. And there are modalities out there like FasterEFT that are really targeting that subconscious. And wow, I could just go on forever. You know, like I was bitter for a long time about this law of attraction stuff. And I read all the books, Olga, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. And you've got to feel, but it's not just about that. So, you know, for those of you who are watching, there's a lot more to it. And we would love to talk to you more about the subconscious. But it really is important because it puts the healing, the resolution back in your hands. It's not just like someone puts their magic wand, or you get a tarot card reading and they tell you that you're fascinating and that you're wonderful. Well, what are you going to do with that? You know, what are you going to do? You have potential inside of you, but in order to tap into that,
especially if you don't really believe that.
Exactly. And that's really what it is. And I didn't understand years ago that the internal references that we have inside of ourselves, you know, that impede us from we can consciously say, I want that good relationship. I want it, but there's more to it. So,
so what we can do is maybe we can have, you know, another interview where we'll talk more about FasterEFT. So today we talked about what's possible, right? And we talked about they do exist. And then maybe we'll go into some of the FasterEFT tools to kind of actually help people, you know, jumpstart some of those changes. Right?
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's fantastic. So I'm going to be closing here, and I just want to say thank you, JTAL friends, for watching. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do by clicking the red button, and do spread our videos. I mean, this helps educate people. You know, I think we're all you know, teachers in some way. And so by you being able to share this video with someone who maybe is struggling to understand intimacy and need help, you know, here's Olga. I mean, she's a relationship coach. This is her specialty. This is her niche area. And please do comment below on the YouTube comments. Any questions, you can reach me at Sandra@j-tal.com. I'm also going to be having Olga's information on in the caption area of this video. And in the meantime, I'm encouraging you all to live authentically, be well, and talk to you soon. Ciao.